What is going on, Cigar Club family? So excited for this very moment. First of all, welcome to your Purito Box, the first ever installment of this product here at Cigar Club that really came from the exact room that I'm sitting in right now at Tabacalera La Isla in Santiago, Dominican Republic. I am joined today by the man.
This guy.
Some
random guy.
Ostos Fernandez, the owner here of Tabacalera La Isla, to walk you guys through the tasting experience of a Purito Box.
That sounds good. I first want to say hi to everybody, the whole Cigar Club family. And this is something interesting that we came up with. And these are the little things that happen when we're blending and trying cigars. Yep. This is the exact experience Dave had when he came here for the first time. This is how we blend cigars. This is why we thought it would be an interesting little box that you guys could get at the club. So what we're doing here is we have a finished cigar. That cigar has, which is this one right here. That cigar has 4 tobaccos in the blend. So what we're doing is we're smoking a purito of each of those tobaccos in the blend. Why? Because you can appreciate more how the tobaccos taste by themselves. And then you can appreciate when they marry together, when you blend them in the finished cigar, what difference and nuances you get from the cigar. Because as what happened yesterday when we were smoking other puritos, sometimes you smoke a specific purito and there's things you might like a lot about it or might not like, but when you blend it with other wrapper or other tobaccos, it changes completely. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting way for us to be able to see how the blends progress, how the tobaccos taste by themselves. And we're basically doing a little blending seminar in a box here.
Totally. And the other really cool part of this is I found with my very little experience working on cigars at factories, sometimes I'll smoke a sample or a cigar and there's something I don't like about it, but I can't say which tobacco it is because I don't know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Once you taste all of the tobaccos and then you smoke the cigar and you're like, I don't love that. Oh, that's the Corojo Seco that I'm tasting because I remember. Or if you're like, I love this, let's add another leaf of the HVA Viso because I've tasted it. I know exactly which flavor that's coming from. It's from that tobacco.
Yeah, and it's important to really concentrate on the puritos themselves so you can get exactly what you're explaining. What does the Corojo Seco give you? What does the Piloto give you? What does the HVA give you? It's very interesting to smoke each one because then when you're smoking the finished product, you can kind of feel the different flavors coming from all the sides.
Totally.
Coming together.
So recommend you grab a pen and paper or just your phone, your notes. Yeah. And as you smoke through each of these burritos, jot some notes of just what it tastes like to you. There's no right or wrong answer. Yeah. If it's just like spicy or creamy or tastes like nothing or even if it's crazy tasting notes, write it down.
It doesn't have to be everything positive. You can say, oh, I'm getting a bitterness of this, or it's too mild, or I'm getting a little acidity, or whatever it is, write it down. So when you smoke the finished product, you check your notes, and you might notice that one of these puritos had a little bit of acidity to it. Yeah. But when you blend it with the Piloto or the HVA, that dies down and it disappears. But you get the good thing from that purito.
Right.
Because most of the puritos, you might get something you don't like, but you're going to get something you like too. So the idea is when you blend it with other tobaccos, what is not good about it kind of disappears because the other tobacco covers it with its profile.
Exactly. And the last thing to note before we light up, so all of these puritos, the filler inside of them is all one tobacco, and then they're all wrapped with the same wrapper that's on the finished cigar, so that while you're smoking it, you're seeing how it's gonna work with the wrapper.
And the wrapper's an Habano 2000 wrapper, so all of them have that wrapper because that's a wrapper in the finished cigar. But we can taste it directly with each specific tobacco inside that blend. Again, this blend has 4 different tobaccos, 4 different fillers. Well, if I'm being honest, it's 3 different fillers because we got 2 Corojos, one is Ligero, one is Seco.
Right.
But it's another interesting thing to do in this experience or exercise because you can see Corojo Ligero and Corojo Seco, what big of a difference there is between the Seco and the Ligero leaf.
Yeah, same plant. 2 feet apart and wild differences.
Let me explain a little bit about Seco Visos and Corojos, for example. Seco Viso and Ligeros. The tobacco plant, all the nutrients go up to the flower. The plant doesn't care about the leaves, funny enough. And that's what we want.
Right.
But the plant, all the nutrients go up to the flower. So all the nutrients are going up the plant. So on the top of the plant, obviously you get more sun, more water falls on it. So it's always going to be more of the Ligero leaves on the top of the plant because they're thicker. They're more flavorful, they're more strong, and those are the ones on the top part of the plant because they're getting more nutrients because it's going all up to the flower. So when the people take the flower off, the idea is for the nutrients to be able to expand around. So then you get the visos in the plant, and then you get the secos more on the bottom, because the secos on the bottom get less light, less nutrients, less water, because they're on the bottom.
Right, but they also, since there's no oil, you were explaining this yesterday, they burn.
Yeah, because secos are most of the time are going to be a lot milder, because secos are great for combustion. You blend them to combust, and they also have some flavor to it. But smoking the corojo seco by itself, you're not going to get that much of a powerful flavor or strength, because the secos are never going to be that way. That's where the ligero and visos comes in. But a lot of people think when you're blending cigars, oh, just put ligero and it's going to be a strong cigar. We've done strong cigars when it has half a leaf of ligero.
Wow.
It all depends on how you blend, and this is the experience that we're doing with the cigars.
Amazing. All right.
So the first one we're going to start with is the corojo seco.
Wonderful. And this is Dominican corojo seco.
Dominican corojo.
All of these are Dominican.
Yeah, all
so
of
this is
them.
a puro.
It is a puro Dominican. It's all grown in DR. There you go, man. There you go.
Let's go.
So let's light the corojo seco up first. And you guys can light with us so we can smoke together. Right off the bat, when you light up this corojo seco, the first few puffs, you feel a little bit of dryness there, because the seco gives you that.
And like your tongue.
And the corojo too gives you that effect. So when you're using a corojo seco, right away you feel a little bit of that, what people call woodiness, I want to say. Yeah. It's a little bit dry, but it still has a little bit of sweetness on the bottom. I was going to say still sweet. Yeah. And this is the interesting part of, because corojo is usually very sweet, but we're smoking a seco, so it's a little bit more mellowed down. When we do the corojo ligero, which is the last one, you're gonna notice a big difference. And another thing you guys can do is, even though you're done with this cigar, you can leave it there, and when you come back to another one, you can come back and keep smoking and seeing. When we get to the corojo ligero, maybe you can compare it with the seco. Yep. What I usually do at the factory, get a little Sharpie, put a little bit of the initials, CS as corojo seco, so you know which is what when you have it in the ashtray.
That's the factory label.
The factory label, yeah. I've sent you samples that have just a little Sharpie on it. Doesn't affect the smoke, but don't do it on a production cigar.
And then also leave them out, because when you go to smoke the finished cigar, oh, what is that? No, it's not that one. Oh, it's this one. It's corojo seco.
Exactly. The beauty of this is, we're doing it in order because that's the order it was blended. The order we're doing it, it's the order that it goes in the blend of the cigar. But it doesn't mean you have to smoke it completely in order. You can come back, you can relight. If you hate one, you can chuck it. You can do whatever you want. It's all part of the experience. And again, whoever's doing this is their own expert. I've always told you this. They're gonna have an experience that's different than yours, different than mine, but this is the beauty of it. People can give you different comments, and you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Right. This is the interesting part of this.
Totally. Yeah, I get that oakiness, some sweetness, almost like a vanilla sweetness, and then even though it's a seco, I still have a tiny bit of tingle on the side of my tongue, which is really nice.
And you stole the words from my mouth, because I just retrohaled it, and it has a little bit of spice. Yeah. Because corojo gives you that. Even though it's a seco, when we do the corojo ligero, it's going to be even more intense in sweetness and in spice and in flavors. But this is a good example of when you blend cigars, the corojo is usually very spicy. It gives you a lot of spice. So we use other tobaccos in the blend to lower that spice a little bit. And of course, aging also helps that as well.
And this is Corojo 99 seed? 99. Because now there's multiple. I've heard of Corojo 2006, Corojo 2012, Corojo 2020.
And then there's a Corojo Original, some people call it too.
Which one?
It's different varietals.
Before 99?
Yeah, different varietals, different options. But at the end of the day, it's what we spoke about yesterday on the podcast. It's different crops, different years. And they always put different, sometimes they do different names just to say different regions. Oh, this is Corojo this or Corojo that. But it's Corojo seed. It's the same seed. It's just different crops, different regions, different years.
It's a beautiful tobacco though, like very clean, sweet, a little dry, oaky.
I understand why you like that so much.
I know, I love it. The Corojo King.
Yeah, the Corojo King. I like that.
With a K.
I like that.
Corojo King.
But yeah, this is a good example. And again, when you smoke the puritos, you don't have to smoke the whole thing. You can smoke an inch and a half, and then you go to the other one. That way you have more purito to come back to and compare and do all that. Because again, you don't have to sit down for this and smoke 5 cigars completely. No, that's not part of the...
You're hurling by the time you get to the finished
When
product.
we're doing blends, it's the same thing.
Puff, puff, puff. No. Puff, puff. Yes.
If we smoked the whole cigar, we would smoke 20 cigars a day here.
Right.
And we'd be burned out by the end
Correct.
of the day, you know? So
Correct.
you guys don't have to smoke the whole thing. Inch and a half is more than fine to get a profile, and then put your name on there with a Sharpie, and then we come back. We don't have a Sharpie, but I know you guys are gonna have a Sharpie.
Yeah, totally. Before we go to the Viso, when you're blending cigars, what do you normally do to cleanse your palate, or do you at all? Or are you just a water guy?
Yeah, water guy.
Yeah.
Water. Sometimes when I'm smoking like a lot, I might do some mineral, like some sparkling water,
Yep.
just to clean the palate, but usually water.
Cool.
To be honest with you, yeah.
Sweet. All right, what do we got next?
Next we have the HVA Viso. It's an Habano Vuelta Arriba seed, grown in Dominican Republic. Habano Vuelta Arriba.
Vuelta Arriba.
Vuelta is like a turn. Arriba, it's a name.
Oh, okay.
Vuelta Arriba. I do not know the historic name of it. It's just one of those names I just heard all my life, and I just use it.
It's HBA.
It's like what we spoke about, the fillers and the sizes
Yes,
of
yes.
the leaves. It's always been done that way. But HVA is an Habano Vuelta Arriba, grown here in DR. This is a Viso, so right off the bat, it is going to be a little bit more intense than the Secos.
So Viso, middle of the tobacco
Yeah,
plant.
the easiest way to explain what a Viso is the thickness of a leaf between secos and ligeros. Obviously, we can go in tangents of ligero finos or ligero gruesos, which is thin ligeros, thick ligeros, or the regular ligeros, but that is, you get more complicated that way. Viso, seco, and ligero are the normal three types of leaves.
Got it.
So this is a Viso HVA. You're gonna get a little bit more of intensity right away, but remember, this is different than the Corojo seed, so you're not gonna get a lot of that sweetness right away.
Right.
And this is one of those tobaccos that by itself, it's not an amazing, because that Corojo, I like it a lot. This one by itself, it's missing a lot of elements. But this is one of the key tobaccos that has specific things that you put it together with one of these and you create something nice.
Right. And it tastes, you'll notice as soon as you light this up, it tastes completely different than the Seco. And that is why this is such a cool way to taste through tobacco. It's like,
And
wow,
look
totally
at this.
different.
Me lighting this up right now, right off the bat, I retrohaled a little bit. Even though this is a Viso, it's a little milder than the Corojo. It's less spicy.
Yes.
Less spicy, a lot of less spice.
I get more of like a slick in my mouth. Like, it's
Yeah.
not, it does, like where the Corojo is
dry. This one's a little bit more wet. It creates
It's
more
oily
saliva.
almost, it creates more saliva.
Yeah.
But yeah, the flavor wise, there's almost more distinctive flavors in the Corojo Seco to me.
More intense.
Yes.
But that is when the seeds come into play. The difference in flavors and taste of different seeds. This is why this is interesting, because we've always said it's not as easy as a straight line of things. I'm telling you, Seco is usually milder, but in this case, I feel a little bit more peppery because you're comparing Corojo to HVA.
Right. So the seed variety is coming into play more than the priming.
Correct. And you know what the HVA is good for? You can see that the Corojo dried us out a lot. This one, more saliva, so
Yes.
you kind of are getting a middle of the road there.
And it probably wouldn't compete as much on flavor with,
No.
it'll let the Seco flavor shine, but it'll balance out the dryness.
And of course, there's another Corojo at the end. So
Yeah.
this is a Corojo strong cigar taste-wise and seed-wise.
Which is why I love it.
But this is still good, man. This has some good flavor coming out of it. You get some good flavor in the back of your mouth, a little bit of it. Compared to the Corojo where it felt more of a tingle in the front.
I just really like how it leaves my mouth.
It leaves it like feeling clean.
Yeah, clean, creamy,
That's good tobacco.
oily. It's making me salivate.
And this is like that you mentioned about the aftertaste taste you get in your mouth is because this type of tobacco has been processed correctly. Everything has been done in the right sense where it doesn't leave a little bit of a linger in the aftertaste. And this is a pure tobacco. I mean,
Right.
normally when you smoke some specific tobaccos, they give you that. But you know you're gonna blend and you take it out of your mind. But in this case, this HVA leaves you that type of clean taste in the palate too. And this one is, in my opinion, a little bit smoother than the Corojo Seco that we did. So that's when you blend that with one that's more of a little bit spicy, more of a little bit stronger in sweetness and taste. This kind of mellows it down a little bit, because if we didn't put this in here, we got the Corojo Seco and then we got the Ligero. You'd be smoking a lot of Corojo.
Right.
And it's gonna be super spicy. It's gonna be too much, you know?
Yeah, this seems like the piece that will add that level of balance.
Correct.
Which is when blending cigars, like you said, balance. Like so many people that I talk to, what do you look for when you're blending? What is the key? They're like balance. You don't want to be all one thing.
The other word is I always use is balance and consistency is the key thing. But in this type of blend, we have two corojos, we have this HVA, then we're gonna smoke the piloto. The piloto and the HVA are the ones that are gonna give you that balance to I don't want to say the word fight, but to kind of play with the corojo tobacco. So that's the interesting part of that. Let's smoke the piloto ligero so we can see that difference right away.
Sweet. All right, so this should be number 3.
This is number 3. Again, the order is in the order that we blended the cigar.
Yep.
You can smoke it that way, but when you come back, you don't have to smoke in order. You smoke in order to begin. Then when you smoke everything, you can try whatever you want.
Just either mark them with a Sharpie or keep them in order.
Yeah. Because I think...
Or don't.
Or don't.
And then you can just guess what
Now that you mentioned that, I'm putting it in order because it wasn't in order.
I accidentally did it, and then I'm like, I'm going to forget.
1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And the puritos, of course, you don't need to cut them. They have a little tip on there, so no need to cut the cigar. You just light it up.
Piloto Cubano is one of those tobaccos that's very popular here in the DR. Do you know any of the history behind Piloto Cubano?
Piloto Cubano, I actually do not know the history, so I can investigate and I can let you know and talk about it.
But I know Piloto Cubano. I wasn't familiar with it until we started making cigars, and there's one other customs we made that used it. But I really enjoy this tobacco.
Piloto Cubano is super popular in DR and other countries as well, and it's one of the most readily available tobaccos at the same time. But why is it so popular? It's easy to work with. You get good percentages of good tobaccos when you sort it, and it tastes good. It's a good flavorful tobacco, but this one is more along the lines of the HVA. We're smoking a ligero here.
I know, it doesn't
You feel it a little bit more intense, but it doesn't feel as flavorful or popping as much as the Corojo does. And it's crazy because this is the interesting part. We keep talking about the Corojo being a little bit more intense than the other one, and it's a seco.
Right.
And we're smoking ligero here, where we're smoking Biso with the HVA, but that's when you go into the blending process of it. Different tobaccos are different profiles. A ligero Corojo, a ligero Piloto, a ligero HVA are never going to be the same. Different profile, different taste. So this is the interesting part of this. You can kind of see what we're doing with the blend.
Ligero doesn't always mean spice bomb.
Or strength.
Or strength, which is what this is really showcasing, I think.
Yeah, it's like...
This is rich and sweet.
Yeah,
and a little, an oaky kind of, but like a sweet wood.
Yeah, and the other part about Piloto, it burns well. Be it a ligero, be it a Biso, it burns well as well. It doesn't matter if it's a thicker leaf in the ligero side of it. The burn is always good with the Pilotos. So this is another tobacco I decided to put in this specific cigar because Corojo burns a little bit slower. So that's the other part of blending. You have to play with the different thickness, different types of seeds to be able to make the cigar burn right and taste right.
So that is kind of how we get some of these, cigars that sometimes canoe with like a hole down the middle.
Correct. But
if the filler is placed incorrectly because all the seco is burning, but then the ligero's on the outside and it's not burning.
Exactly.
That's fast.
It's not just blending ligeros and secos so they can burn correctly. You have to position them correctly in the cigar as well. Usually ligero tobaccos, always ligero tobaccos need to be in the middle of the cigar because ligeros burn slower, secos burn quicker. So the idea is to have ligero in the middle of the cigar and the secos on the outside. So when it burns, you get that nice cone shape or that nice pointy shape because that means it's burning quicker on the outside and slower in the middle. That way you can get that even burn. If you had it the other way around, you'd have the ligeros burning slower on the outside, the secos quicker on the inside, and you're gonna have that hole in the middle of that canoeing.
This one's really interesting. For ligero too.
Yeah, this one has a specific flavor that is interesting about the Piloto on it as well. When you compare it to the HVA, for example, this one is a lot better,
different,
more intense, more flavorful as well.
More sweet too.
But again, everybody has their own opinion. Like right now, the one I've enjoyed the most is the Corojo.
Yeah.
For example.
I would say Corojo, then the Piloto Cubano, and then HVA.
Because this is a blend that we based off Corojo.
Yep.
We wanted to do a blend with Corojo
Yep.
tobaccos. That's why we got the 2 options there, and then we got the other ones to be able to play with the blend.
All right, 3 down.
And then we go to the Corojo Ligero.
The one we've all been waiting for.
Number 4 on the list of Puritos.
Number 4. So top of the plant, same placement as the Piloto, but different seed varietal.
And different crop year,
Different location.
farm, yeah.
Still Dominican, but different farm.
Right off the bat, a lot of spice on my tongue. Right away. Very spicy, very spicy, very spicy. And you get that sweetness in there, some of that strength. Especially when you...
Keeps going.
Yeah, it's still lingering on my tongue, that spiciness. And for people who retrohale, like when you retrohale a little bit of it, you get a little bit of that spicy, that kick that wakes you up.
This is 2 puffs, very complex tobacco.
Yep. Right off the bat, you get a lot of things happening in your mouth and in your tongue. Intensity, spice, sweetness, flavorful. And you get a little bit, and I like this a lot because I'm a fan of spiciness, but it's too much spice if you did this by itself. It would be constantly the same thing, spice, spice,
You'd be
spice.
sick of it.
You get bored of it after 2 inches, you know? So even though this is good by itself, you guys, after we finish this, you can smoke all of them if you want.
Right.
No problem.
Put all 4 in your mouth and just...
No, you can do that too. You can put all 4 of them in your mouth and then you go to town.
Send a photo if you do that. Tag us in it.
I would love to see that picture. So holding the finished one in the one hand and then the other 4. You know what? Fuck it. Let me do this. Let me do this. This is not common, guys. This is not common. This is just...
This is actually how you blend 4 filler components.
Yeah. Too much.
This isn't as spicy though as I thought it would be. To me, to my palate right now.
Like for me, it's a lot more spicy than the Seco, but that's the interesting part. Some people might say it isn't. We want to hear like the comments and the video if we can of what you think, what you got from the Puritos, because it's interesting to read other people's opinions. Again, at the end of the day, you are your own expert. You know what you like, your palate knows what you like, so whatever you guys say is not going to be incorrect.
Right.
It never will be. You cannot say you're wrong because you have your own style of what you like and what you think about a cigar.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see if you guys leave comments on this video. You know, number 1, order them, which ones you like the best, what you got from each one. What would you have done differently to the final blend? Because this is a blend that we both really liked, how we did the percentages of each tobacco. But what would you have done differently?
Well, before I get into that, it's interesting that you notice right away. When I picked up all those cigars, I picked this one up because we don't have a Sharpie, and I thought this was the Corojo. As soon as I lit it up, this is not the Corojo Ligero. Because you notice right away the difference. This is actually the HVA. Yeah, no, I think this one is the Corojo. But
you noticed right away.
I noticed right away because right away when I took that puff, it was missing those elements that we're getting from the Corojo Ligero. So it's an interesting little experience I had myself here where I lit it up and right away I'm like, you're talking to me in my mind. I'm like, this is not the Corojo Ligero. Because you notice those nuances and differences on the Purito.
There's like a really nice on this Corojo Ligero. I would compare it to like a milk dud sweetness, like caramel, chocolate, subtle, but like it's that kind of sweet.
I know when you say the word like caramel sweetness because it feels heavy in your mouth too a little bit. You know when you eat like a piece of like caramel, you feel that heaviness.
Yeah.
You can get that with this as well. You feel that, but it's sweet at the same time. And do you know what the interesting part is? We're smoking puros. We have not felt any bitterness.
No.
Any acidity.
No.
Any of those things. Why? Because 1, good tobacco. 2, age. Because these Puritos are not fresh, obviously. We rolled them a few months ago.
Right.
And if we would have smoked these fresh, like we did with the blends yesterday, you get acidity, you get a little bit of bitterness even, because when cigars are wet, you get a little bit of bitterness. But those are the things with aging, they mellow out in a way that you don't finish. You don't feel it in the finished product. As soon as I got this, I lit it up right away, boom. Hit me with that spice and flavor. I know this is the Corojo Ligero right away.
I really love this one.
I think now we can go and try the finished cigar. 6x50 Toro. Another interesting part that we didn't mention here, The finished cigar is a 6x50. The Puritos are very thin.
Yeah.
So the thinner the cigar is, the more intensity you're going to get regardless. Because the less space you have for air to go through, the more intensity you get. That's why thinner cigars usually feel more intense in flavor.
So it's not necessarily a thinner cigar because you're getting more wrapper that is more intense. It's more about the density of the pack.
It's logical. Like if you smoke a 42 ring gauge cigar and you smoke that same blend in a 60 or a 65, they're going to be completely different cigars because it's a lot fatter and you get more air coming in through the cigar. So usually the fatter it gets, the less intense it is. Obviously there are blends you can do that are going to be strong regardless of the size, but in this case, like this specific blend, we do a 42, we do a 50, we do a 60, they're going to be completely different in experience.
Wow. I whipped out the Dominican cutter.
Let's do the Dominican cutter, the factory cutter as we call it. So now it's where it gets interesting in the sense of you've smoked the burritos, you have an idea in your mind of what the taste and profile is, but when you smoke it blended, it's a different thing. And as I've always said, remember guys, blending solids is a lot harder than blending liquids. Because liquids you just pour, you measure. Solids is positioning leaves, getting things in the right amount because of the weight. Everything is included when you make cigars. It's a little bit more complicated when you're trying to mix solids.
And time. It takes a lot more time for it to come together and become what it's going to actually be when it's ready to be released.
So right off the bat, I get a little bit of that Corojo spice in there. Yes. Why? We got the Corojo Secos and the Ligero working together, but it's not as intense as the last Corojo or the Secos.
And it is just so creamy.
Yeah. You know what?
It's the Visos and I really get a lot of the Piloto Cubano.
Yeah, the Piloto and the HVA give it that sense of smoothness, clean, and it helps a lot to mellow out a little bit the Corojo on there as well. You still get a little bit of spice because this has more Corojo. You got the Seco, you got the Ligero Corojo on there. So you're fighting two Corojos against two other single leaves.
Right. This is a great cigar. I love this blend.
It's awesome, man. All the flavors that come out, and even us doing this exercise, at least me, I'm noticing the little bit of the nuances of each one in the blend at the same time. But it's always interesting because this was wrapper and the tobacco. Now we're doing the wrapper, the binder, and everything mixed.
Which the binder is the same seed as the wrapper.
Correct. Habano is the wrapper and the binder is Habano 2000 seed. Why did I do that as well? Because the Habano is a tobacco that helps mellow out the other tobaccos in there. So it helps, and it has intensity and flavor, so that's why I decided to do it in the wrapper and binder, because the Habano gives you a little bit more sweetness, but it mellows down that peppery that you might get tired of so quick. The idea from this blend, the original question you asked, like when we talked about the blend and what would I would have done, I actually would have done this cigar. That's why I agree with you when we did the cigar, because it plays well with the other tobaccos. Like all the tobaccos in this blend play very well in the sense of, I like to smoke strong cigars. This is a medium to medium plus. And this is a cigar I can enjoy easily because it's not hitting me with the same thing over and over and over. You're getting a little bit of everything in the blend at the same time. And again, guys, you start smoking this and you're like, I think I feel a little bit of that Piloto. Oh, go back to the Piloto and try it.
Yeah.
And you can smoke them together side by side. You can literally just puff on this, and just kind of get like, now I get why they put the other tobaccos with the Corojo-based blend to be able to make him a more smooth cigar. The word is more smooth. Corojo by itself, it's more rough, intense.
Yeah, aggressive.
This smooths it out.
And I still get just the tingle of the little bit of spice and pepper on the side of my tongue, like I did with the Seco and a little bit with the Corojo Ligero. But it's this richness, this creaminess, the smoothness of the other two tobaccos that are balancing that. So it's just kind of there. When you retro, you get it more. When you don't, it lets you know it's there. Yeah. But it's not overpowering.
Another interesting comment about this is I spoke about the positioning of the Secos, the Visos, and the Ligeros. This is why I did Seco and Ligero Corojos, so they could be separate from each other in the blend. So the Corojo Ligero is in the middle. Then you get the the Piloto, then the HVA, and then you get the Corojo Seco at the end. So the Corojo Seco and the Ligero are separated by two other types of seeds. So they're not correlating directly with each other, and you don't get that much intensity of the Corojo.
It's also really cool to smoke this because I've smoked these Puritos super fresh and this cigar super fresh. Now that it's had time to really sit and come together, I mean, it's amazing.
It's a good cigar.
It's more sweet. I love the little bit of spice that stays on your tongue.
And the other thing I'm getting is what we spoke about, the Piloto, cleanliness in the palate. Smooth, clean, and even the aftertaste of me puffing and then keep talking with you, it's clean. I don't feel anything.
Totally agree. Wow. Well, this is amazing.
Well,
I hope you guys are really enjoying this. Obviously, you've got a whole cigar to go still, so smoke that thing down. Keep smoking the Puritos. Leave them, if you smoke this, leave them outside or wherever you're smoking. Come back in a couple hours if you want to do it again and light up another one. You totally can. Clip off the end, whatever you want to do. But this is an amazing experience. So I want to thank you for putting this together for all of us to be able to experience what it's like to be in a cigar factory and sit down and blend and appreciate each of the tobaccos and the role that they play, even if it's one that you initially don't like. Exactly. But then when you smoke it in this, you're like,
it happens a lot when we were blending.
There's nothing I don't like about this one. Personally, there's nothing I don't like about this one, so I wouldn't change anything.
When we were blending yesterday, there was a couple of little Puritos. You're like, nah, this. I'm like, wait till we blend it together. Keep smoking it. If you don't like it, keep not liking it. It doesn't matter. But I want you to see the difference when we blend it with the other tobaccos. Yeah. Each tobacco that we use in the blend has a specific thing that we're looking for and another thing that we might not like. So the idea is to get other tobaccos that are going to hide or mellow out as much as possible. That part we don't like. It's too peppery. It's too acid. It's too sometimes bitter might happen. But other tobaccos, if you get a tobacco that by itself has a little bit of bitterness, you put some sweet fillers on there to blend with it so you can hide that a little bit when you do the blend.
It's excellent.
But send us pictures, send us comments, because we want to hear your. I'm very interested to hear other people's opinions, because me and Dave might be talking out of our ass, and you might say, "Hey, I don't agree. I don't agree with that guy."
Sure,
that's what we want to hear.
Absolutely.
That's the interesting part of blending. When I sit down with you to blend, it's not me telling you what I want. You're like, no, this is not good. I prefer it this way or that way. That's how we do it, man.
Absolutely.
It's the whole idea. Everybody is their own expert. Don't let anybody tell you that you're wrong because you have your own opinion on it as well.
And your own palate.
Yep.
Keep enjoying these. Let us know what you think. And this is just the start, I think, of really cool factory experiences that we can bring to each and every one of you to see and really experience what it's like to come to a place like this and spend time and learn more about tobacco. And have fun.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is a fun experience to have, and it's literally you guys getting the best idea of how we do a blend without having to be at the factory.
Yep.
When we do it, we're more on the outside sweating because we like to blend in the factory. But this is a great experience to be able to see how cigars are blended, and I'm pretty sure when you guys do the comments, I'm gonna hear a lot how much more you appreciate the cigar after you understand where it's coming from.
Totally.
It's like I told you yesterday, it's not putting brown tobacco in the cylinder and going to town. There are little details again to that go into it as well.
Absolutely.
So enjoy, guys, and we're looking forward to those comments and pictures.
Absolutely. All right, Cigar Club family, enjoy, and we'll talk to you soon. As always, happy smoking.